A blessed day to each and everyone, especially to our dearest professor, Dr. Marciano Melchor. Under his class, Educ.107, Laws and Legislation of Education Institutions. I am your beautiful reporter for today, Teacher Maria Camille T. Osorio from Manuel A. Rojas Elementary School. I am going to share to you my report about Republic Act 10157, or known as Kindergarten Education Act. Education is the right of every child. Education should help children develop their spirituality, talents, and abilities. It should also teach them to respect themselves, other people, and nature. What is Republic Act 10157, or known as Kindergarten Education Act? It is an act institutionalizing the kindergarten education into the basic education system and appropriating funds, therefore, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the Philippines in Congress assembled. Under Section 1, short title, this act shall be known as the Kindergarten Education Act. Under Section 2, Declaration of Policy, it is hereby declared the policy of the state to provide equal opportunities for all children to avail of accessible, mandatory, and compulsory kindergarten education that effectively promotes physical, social, intellectual, emotional, and skills stimulation and values formation to sufficiently prepare them for formal elementary schooling. This act shall apply to elementary school system, being the first stage of compulsory and mandatory formal education. Thus, kindergarten will now be an integral part of the basic education system of the country. Under Section 3, Definition of Terms. The terms used in the Act are defined as follows. A. DepEd should refer to the Department of Education. B. BEE shall refer to the Bureau of Elementary Education. C. Kindergarten education shall be understood in this Act to mean 1 year of preparatory education for children at least 5 years as a prerequisite for grade 1. D. Mother tongue refers to the language first learned by a child. Under Section 4, Institutionalization of Kindergarten Education. Kindergarten education is hereby institutionalized as part of basic education as for school year 2011 to 2012 shall be implemented partially, and thereafter it shall be made mandatory and compulsory for entrance for grade 1. Under Section 5, Medium of Instruction, the state shall hereby adopt the Mother Tongue-Based Multilingual Education (MTBMLE) method. The mother tongue of the learner shall be the primary medium of instruction for teaching and learning in a kindergarten level. Under Section 6, Implementing Agency, the authority to regulate the organization, operation, and/or implementation of the kindergarten education program of the both public and private schools shall be vested upon the DepEd through the creation of a new division under the BEE and other necessary support to achieve successful implementation of kindergarten education to include, but not limited to, increasing the number of kindergarten teacher positions with the required salaries and benefits, enhancing teacher training in early education, and providing the necessary allocations for classrooms and chairs, facilities, and equipment, and textbooks. Under Section 7, Duties, Powers, and Functions, the DepEd through the BEE shall exercise the following powers and functions. A. oversee and supervise the organization, operation, and implementation of the kindergarten education program. B. Develop the curriculum for kindergarten education consistent with the universally accepted norms and standards, including values, formation of all which shall be developmentally appropriate, and use of the MTV-MLE as a medium of instruction, and to periodically review for such purposes of upgrading. C. Develop teaching strategies using the unique feature of MTB-MLE, which shall include but not limited to the following. 1. The two-track method, storytelling and reading, listening, story, oral communication activities. 2. Interactive strategies. 3. Use of manipulative games. And 4. Experimental, small groups, discussions, and total physical response, TPR, among others. Under in Section 8, Appropriations. The DepEd shall immediately include in the program of the department the operationalization of the free, mandatory, and compulsory public kindergarten education, the initial funding of which shall be charged against the current appropriations for kindergarten education of the DepEd. Thereafter, such sums which shall be necessary for the continued implementation of the free public kindergarten education program shall be charged to the general fund and included in the annual General Appropriations Act. Under in Section 9, Implementing Rules and Regulations. Within 90 days after the effectivity of this Act, the DepEd, in consultation with the Department of Budget and Management, shall promulgate the rules and regulations needed for the implementation of this Act. Under in Section 10, Separability Clause. If any provision of this Act is held invalid or unconstitutional, the same shall not affect the validity and effectivity of the other provisions hereof. Under in Section 11, Repealing Clause. Pertinent provisions of all other laws, decrees, executive orders, and rules and regulations contrary to or inconsistent with the provision of this Act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. And lastly, under in Section 12, Effectivity Clause. This Act shall take effective 15 days after its publication in the official Gazette or in 2 newspapers of general circulation. Leaving you all with a quote, every child has a right to health, education, equality, and protection. The provision of clean water is a key part of fulfilling this right. By Martin Mogwanha. Thank you everyone for watching. God bless!